Hey there, Sarah with our furniture flipping adventure. Welcome back to our channel. Today I have this piece that has been hiding out in my garage for far too long because I just didn't know what I wanted to do with it. But today I have half a plan, and that involves General Finishes milk paint in Persian blue. And that's about as far as my plan goes. So I found this in a local vintage shop. I really wanted to try it out. I love trying out new products, so I'm going to let you know what I think about this paint at the end. First time trying it out, not sponsored, and we'll figure out where this project goes as we go along. So let's get started. Before the fun stuff can start, the cleaning, the sanding has to go first. Proper preparation for your piece will help give you a lasting finish. I go over the entire piece by hand with a piece of 220 grit sandpaper, and then I come right back after and wipe it back off with a damp rag to get all the sanding dust off. So I'm pretty excited to get started on this project. I haven't even opened this paint yet. From what I understand, a true milk paint is one that you have to mix up yourself from a powder. So I guess this isn't a true milk paint, but it's called milk paint, so I don't know if it's going to be a little more chippy than normal. It's actually not kind of what I want. I don't know what I'm doing. We're going to find out. Probably should have shaken this a little better. But I'm excited to try it out. I've wanted to try some General Finishes stuff for a year or more, probably a couple of years now. So excited to see what it does. I just flung paint on myself. Oops. It's a bit thinner than the chalk paints that I use, so it spreads nicely. I was fairly confident that there's not going to be any bleed through, so I did not prime this piece. I did sand it to give the paint a little extra grip to it. Well, not to the paint, but to its surface. I'm obviously used to a thicker paint. Oopsie daisies. My goodness. I am making a mess here. The paint is, I don't know how to explain it, kind of frothy almost. Maybe that's why it's milk paint. I've never used milk paint before, so first time. Don't know what I'm doing. But I would have to say it's a very different consistency. I'm just going to go ahead and apologize for the noise in the next clip. I live right next door to a trucking area. There's a lot of trucks that load and unload, and I have no idea what they were doing, but they were doing it very noisily. There's a storm brewing, so I've retreated indoors. In between coats, I often will keep my brush in a plastic bag in my refrigerator just so I don't have to wash it out every single time, and it does a great job. Even if I forget and leave it in the refrigerator for days, because I did that last week, and it was red and it washed out just fine. So yep, baggie in the refrigerator is definitely a great way to keep your brushes if you don't want to wash them out between each coat. I'm pretty sure I've decided what I want to do. I am going to probably, it's not written in stone yet, but I think I want to try raised stencils on these panels. It's something I've wanted to try for a long time, and I'm thinking that may be the direction I go. We'll see. Pretty sure though. Pretty sure. I don't have a stencil for it yet, so I'd have to find the stencil, find the medium to use. So it's a bit of it's a work in progress, but that's the tentative goal.
So I did enjoy using this paint. It was a little bit of a learning curve to not get quite as much paint on my brush as I do with regular chalk paint because it is so much thinner. But it covered really well, and I actually used very little on this entire project. Now that all my coats of paint are all dry, I have my stencil. I went to a Dixie Belle stockist nearby and purchased a stencil there. I will have the exact stencil in the description along with all the other products that I used, including this spackling mud that I used for my medium to create the raised stencil. I started out using this plastic spatula thing and it worked pretty well, but I wasn't able to get it perfectly smooth because I'd used this particular spatula on some interesting projects in the past and it was a little bit rough on the edge. So the next time around I used an old club card that was no good to me anymore, and I've used this card on a couple other projects, but it worked perfectly for smoothing out the spackling on the stencil. I spread it to the edges and cleaned up the edges afterwards just with my fingers, and then I can sand the rest off if I need to when it dries. And just when I thought I had the hang of it, that last panel, which of course I didn't film, I completely got it crooked and ruined it and had to scrape it off and start again. So oh dear, live and learn.
So since the plaster mud stuff that I used didn't dry completely smooth or didn't get scraped off perfectly smooth, I'm going to be sanding it down with 220. I've already done it on this side just to smooth it out. And I am going to have to paint over it just because I did have to scrape off stuff over there, so the paint finish is not perfect underneath that side. Otherwise I'd be totally tempted to just leave it white, but as it is I am going to have to change that. So just a light sanding. I have some 220 grit sandpaper. So I would recommend, if you're going to be doing a raised stencil, that you do it first before you paint so that your paint can just be one step right over top. I did not have my stencil when I started out, so I kind of fudged the steps a little bit, but it would have been better if I had to only paint this one time. Would have saved me time and paint in the long run. So maybe I should have been a little more patient.
I decided I wanted to add some white back into that piece, so I'm just taking a rag, dipping it in some white paint, and kind of just sort of smearing it around until I liked it. It kind of gave it a cloudy and aged effect that after I add the gold here shortly, it all came together beautifully. At least, I think it did. Often, it is not our own abilities or even our imaginations that limit us. At least for me, it's fear. I don't know how long I've wanted to try this raised stencil idea, but I've just been too afraid that I wouldn't be good enough or that it wouldn't look right, and I allowed that to stop me from trying this many times. Today, I've conquered that fear, and I have to say I'm absolutely thrilled with how it turned out. Isn't it beautiful? It's definitely a reminder to not allow fear to stop you from trying something new. I hope you enjoyed our video today and that you'll join me again next time on our furniture flipping adventure for our next project. I hope to see you all there. Until then, I'm Sarah with our furniture flipping adventure. Goodbye.